Welcome everyone to the Almost Cancelled TV News Podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Connor.
Just about.
It is the final Almost Cancelled TV News Podcast of the year. This will be our last one until 2023, which isn't that long away. It's only a couple weeks.
It's like 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, but there's
But we're not going to be back on day one.
Well, no, but it's usually not that much news during Christmas week, so this will be the last one of the year, and then we'll be back maybe a week into January. So have no fear, we will return. But we actually have quite a busy episode to wrap up with. And I'd say it's because we have 2 weeks worth, because we didn't get a chance to record one last week, but most of it was from this week, to be honest. So
a little bit of serendipity then.
Everyone's getting their news out before Christmas. So yeah, but as always, we have pilots, renewals, cancellations, all that kind of stuff. Any other interesting tidbits from the genre TV world, or anything that seems worth talking about. And I promise we won't talk about why Netflix should go weekly this episode, okay?
I make no such promises.
We'll start off with renewals. So Quantum Leap's been renewed for season 2 NBC.
That's good for you. I know you've been watching it, but I know it was allegedly it was on the bubble. So
I don't think it was as on the bubble as you seem to think it was.
I've seen so many articles talking about being on the bubble.
It was probably the highest performing new show NBC had. So maybe they could have cancelled everything, which is always possible. But
it's happened before. Yeah.
It never felt that precarious. It's doing well on Peacock as well, apparently, because that's obviously where NBC stuff go. This is during the mid-season break this has happened, because it's been on a break for the last 4 weeks, something like that. It's back on the 2nd of January. So
it's quite an early break, and then back very quick as well. Like in terms of usually a little bit later.
Yeah. So the gap's about the same. It's just they just started earlier.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, maybe it's just because what they had ready in the can, or maybe it's just works out with their schedule better. I don't know, but there's been 8 episodes so far, which notably though, this is the other thing that was interesting about it, is that there was no breaks in those first 8, which for a network TV show that starts in September is kind of
almost unheard of.
Yeah, because I kept expecting just a couple of weeks off at some point, and it never happened, and then it was like, oh no, that's its mid-season finale. I was like, oh okay. So maybe they've made a conscious choice to try and air it in 2 big chunks rather than all these little gaps, and this is part of the byproduct. I would
probably expect some gaps if it's back so early in January.
Yeah, well, I would too if it was 22 episodes, but it's not. It's only going to, I think, 16. So
maybe then, yeah.
Yeah, so they may just do the back half all in one go as well.
Maybe they want to rush out, so then maybe that's why it's starting back so early, so then they can not rush it out, but have it out ready for March time when they can start something else.
Maybe they've got some March mid-season stuff coming in. So good news regardless, if you've been enjoying the show. So that'll be back for season 2 later next year, presumably, unless they hold it to mid-season for the start of 2024, which they might. But
it's possible, yeah.
It's coming for season 2, and then also renewed. This one's even earlier than halfway through its season. It's before its next season even premieres, and that is Yellowjackets has been renewed for season 3, and season 2 is not even premiering until March. So they are showing some confidence with this, which is neat. Season 2 got ordered when only a few episodes of season 1 had aired, so even that was kind of early as well. So clearly Showtime has a hit, and they're happy to ride it out, I guess.
Yeah, you went back and watched season 1 not that long ago, right?
Yeah. I went back and watched it, and it's a mystery show that I think will probably benefit if they have a good idea that they're getting, their whatever their whole run that they want is. It'll benefit from
there
them
might
knowing.
Be some behind the scenes kind of conversations along those lines of, look, we need some sort of security so we can at least kind of plan what we're doing long term.
Yeah, because it's just one of these shows where there's multiple timelines and there's all these reveals happening. And season 1 had a lot, but clearly there's going to be more as it goes on. I suspect that some security probably is a good idea with that. But anyway, season 3 has been renewed, or it's been renewed for season 3, I should say. So that's Yellowjackets. I'm sure that pleased some people this week as well. Also renewed for season 2 at Disney Plus is the Santa Clauses, which I was under the assumption this was a limited series, but I guess not. These Disney Plus shows, you can never tell. It's just some come back for season 2 and some are like, no, that was always just one thing.
Sometimes they just make it up on the spot.
Yes. So, yeah, the season 1 finale is just coming out this week, or this coming week.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they timed it so that it would end just before Christmas. That makes sense.
You got a deadline, right?
Yeah. At the same time, they could have started it around Christmas, but then I suppose it would feel really out of date by the time you get to the finale at the end of January.
Yeah, and not to break your promises or anything, but that's something that Netflix can do. You know, like they drop that whole season, they can drop it on Christmas Eve and be like, "Hey, you're going to watch it all now, and you're going to enjoy your Christmas content." Whereas Disney Plus have not been doing that, so they kind of have to start it earlier.
I mean, Netflix can attempt that. Well, how many people actually watch all of it in the Christmas season is another question.
Yeah.
Another question entirely. And then proving that HBO Max are actually renewing something. They have renewed sort of for season 3.
So they're sort of renewing something.
I'm just going to let that joke die a death.
Yeah. Well, it was awful. I'm very tired. But
well, they've renewed a second thing as well. They've also renewed The Sex Lives of College Girls for season 3. So, admittedly, I've heard of neither of these shows, but
me either. But I'm assuming we've got there's bigger profile HBO Max stuff to talk about than.
Oh, there is, yes, but it's not in the renewals, so you're not getting it just now.
It's not. No, I'm just like, the more interesting stuff will come in later.
Yeah. Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock has been renewed for season 2 at Apple.
I forgot this was a thing.
Yeah.
But cool.
Yeah, so I have nothing to say on it. And out of the cancellations, Blockbuster's been cancelled by Netflix after 1 season.
Bit like Blockbuster, yeah. Dead.
Yeah. It felt, do you know what? It really felt like Netflix were like, because Netflix effectively almost single-handedly killed Blockbuster, so it always felt a little bit like they're desecrating the grave a bit by making a show about Blockbuster. I don't know. I watched this. I ended up watching the whole thing just because it was an easy-to-watch sitcom, but it also wasn't that good either. It was kind of in this middling territory of it's consumable, but it's...
Was it like 10 episodes?
Yeah. There's a lot of tropes from like 2010s sitcoms, which obviously I like a lot of 2010 sitcoms, but a lot of what this was doing just kind of felt like you're just like,
why don't you just go watch one of those other shows with 5, 6, 7 seasons?
You know, the one sort of through line for the whole season is that the main character's got a will they won't they with someone, and I'm like, every sitcom from the last 20 years, like this is what the hook's been, and I just like, it just feels like it's going through the motions. But there's weird cast members in it. Yeah, at least. But anyway, it's done. It's cancelled, so no reason to worry about it, I guess. Also cancelled at Netflix is Warrior Nun after its 2nd season.
I remember this coming out at the start, and I just being like, "Huh, that's a thing." I guess everyone else had a similar reaction. Like, "Oh, that's a thing." Checked out enough for season 1, just because of the
name.
The name, yeah. And Netflix were like, hey, people are watching this, we'll renew it. And then everyone got bored.
Yes. Netflix just cancelling like almost everything just continues. Although, that said, HBO Max are kind of effectively doing the same thing now. The only thing that's saving some HBO stuff is the fact that HBO, the channel, is independent from it and still making its own decisions.
Yes.
At least
For now, at least,
yeah. Still in cancellations, Shantaram has been cancelled by Apple after 1 season, which is notable because Apple don't tend to cancel things after 1 season. So, either they're getting a little tighter or this was particularly poor performing by their standards.
Yeah, I don't know what this one was. I don't remember.
This was Charlie Hunnam.
Blandy McBlanderson.
Yes, so maybe the show was Blanderville.
Yeah.
Yes. Very possible. I mean, like I saw it was coming out. I put it on the pilot vote in Patreon. I think it got like 0 votes. So
because everyone looked at it and went, "Nah, that's bland."
Yes. So that's that. Step Up has been cancelled at Stars after 1 season.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. Although technically this was actually season 3, but seasons 1 and 2 were on a different network, so this is its only season on Stars.
Oh, okay. So they did a rescue season. Did it get an ending?
I don't know.
I mean, maybe your article doesn't mention that, but
No. I don't think it says.
if that was me and I got a rescue season, I'd be damn sure to write something safe, right?
Oh yeah. So there's another worrying trend that's been happening recently, and this is another example of it here. Minx has been cancelled at HBO Max.
Is this another one that was already renewed?
Yes, this is a reversal cancellation, which, you know, is a worrying trend. And the sad news is that there's a second example of that, and not from the same place either. Stars has cancelled Dangerous Liaisons, which it had previously renewed. What's funny about this one is this got renewed for season 2 before season 1 started airing. So with this one might speculate that they were confident, and then it started airing, and they went, "Oh shit, this is not doing that well."
Yeah,
and reversed the choice.
It is interesting that this is becoming a trend, because it's not something that's never happened. We've seen it happen occasionally over the years, but I can think, you know, there's probably at least 5 or 6 examples this year, which is a lot for what this is.
It's been a lot. Like, it was like a once in a blue moon thing that was kind of shocking. It's happened, like probably half a dozen times this year, which is very notable.
It might not sound like a lot, but in the scheme of how often it usually happens, that is pretty significant.
No, I mean, I think, and I still kind of feel this way. It's not quite killed this yet, but forever it's been, if something's been officially renewed, that's it, safe for a season.
Mm-hmm.
But this has started to shake that up a little bit and be like, no, they could just change their minds if they see fit.
It is starting to feel a little bit like DC movie release dates. They just don't exist until it's there in front of you.
So that's all the renewals and cancellations. Big list of stuff there. A couple of notable things, but it's like Quantum Leap and Yellowjackets been renewed. Further is good news. A couple premiere dates. The last 2 remaining superhero shows of the CW. Season 3 of Lois and Clark, Superman and Lois. Freudian slip there. And Gotham Knights, the new show.
Oh, I forgot about this.
Yeah, that's right. They've got a new one starting. That
I forgot it existed. It looked terrible.
Which probably won't last very long, but so the Gotham City rookie show from Berlita Productions is going to start on Tuesday, March 14th.
You might as well pencil in your review for the 15th then.
Right after the season 3 premiere of Superman and Lois. So they're both on Tuesday, March 14th.
That makes sense. If they've only got 2 left, they might as well stack them together.
Yeah, I don't think they're long for this world.
No.
Everything good out of the CW, it just feels like nah.
I mean, Superman, Lois, maybe. I'd still say probably not, but I think it has slightly more chance in that I think it had a different production company to a lot of the other ones.
I agree, it's got a better chance. It's just got a bigger name recognition, if nothing else.
Yeah, whereas the other one, I think it definitely fits in the CW vibe, at least from the trailer. But they seem to be wanting to get away from that traditional CW vibe.
Yes, so, they want to move on to something else. So
I can't see it lasting.
Luckily, I don't care because it looks terrible. But but all the same. Party Down, Stars is doing a revival for Party Down, which is
why?
What do you mean why?
I mean why?
Have you ever seen Party Down?
Not enough of it, but like why? There's so many revivals and stuff now. Like that's what I mean. Like why?
Party Down was a decent show though. They got 2 seasons.
Yeah, but has it got like a huge clamoring for it? Like,
well, it was kind of infamous because they wanted to do more, but because they took too long to like lock in all the cast, they all signed on for different shows, so they just couldn't because all the cast got locked up. Adam Scott ended up in Parks and Rec was like one of the examples. So that sort of time, you can sort of time when it was because of that. But everyone's back except Lizzie Kaplan, which is a shame because she was one of the main people from the show. But Anywho, this is coming on the 24th of February, which is a Friday on Stars. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it'll probably be decent entertainment. Yeah.
I mean, it might be, yeah.
I remember thinking the original was entertaining enough. It's got a good cast, so, and I guess they all freed up from their other projects. So,
well, they mostly freed up.
Well, apart from one, I guess. I don't know. Is Lizzie Kaplan even like? What's she in these days?
I don't know. I feel like I hear her name in like a lot of production stuff still.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not seen her in anything in a while, but I don't know if I'd say she's the biggest star. I'd say Adam Scott's a bigger star at this point.
Probably now, yeah. Obviously, you had Parks and Rec, and he's done a handful of movies. He's got
Severance,
the Apple show,
just
Severance,
this past year. Yeah. So I would say he's the bigger star now, but so I don't think it's necessarily a question of like she's too big for it, but maybe she's just locked up in something or whatever.
Yeah. I was definitely not suggesting that she's too big to bother.
Yeah. On to some other stuff here. So go back to HBO Max, because this is actually quite another development in the demise of HBO Max, is that they're removing a bunch of shows from their service, which they've done before. They've done it sort of consistently for the last few months at this point. What's notable about this is that they're removing HBO original content from HBO Max, and not even just HBO the channel original content, like HBO Max original content. They're removing from the channel because they want to sell it to what they're calling fast services, which is just a new term I've heard this week, but all it means is the free streaming services. So you're thinking like Tubi and stuff like that. Basically, ad-supported services where they're making money from giving it to them. So they're licensing it out rather than having it on their own service. Why they can't have it on both? Maybe
that's what I was saying. I wonder if it's part of the agreements they've got in place with these other companies, if they are there already. Maybe they're stipulating exclusivity.
I don't think they've got the power for that. Like, I don't see Tubi being like, no, we want Westworld, and we're demanding that you take it off your service, or we won't have it.
That's the thing. That's the only reasonable reason I can think of is exclusivity.
All I can think is that either they get to charge more by doing this, so they're making that choice themselves, or there's some weird tax reason for it.
Again, yeah.
Like some sort of weird thing where, because it's like, no, you're giving it to someone exclusively, you don't have to, not that they have to pay a tax for keeping their own show on their service, but like I'm just wondering if there's some weird Hollywood accounting going on here, and this is why. Because this is the big thing. Westworld's the most prominent show that this is happening to. This is a big show that just got cancelled. What's weird is that The Nevers is happening to us, and basically this just casually mentions, oh, by the way, The Nevers is cancelled. Which has not been announced
hasn't
before.
Even aired its second half. Yeah,
they've shot the second half of season 1. It's still to happen in terms of being aired, but they're removing the first half of season 1 from HBO Max and sending it to wherever. So who knows, like, how the second half, if ever, will be released? You know, and
was that HBO Max, or was that not traditional HBO?
That was traditional HBO.
Yeah, so it'll probably still be aired on HBO when they finally.
You'd hope so.
Bother.
Yeah. So that's kind of a shame, because the show was a bit rocky, but it definitely got interesting by the time it was kind of finding its feet as those 6 episodes wrapped up. But it's been gone for a while now, and now all of a sudden it's just done. It's just gone already. So that kind of sucks. But it's just very unceremonious. And then there was a second article saying that Raised by Wolves is also going. That was a HBO Max show. The Time Traveler's Wife was just HBO proper. Only lasted 1 season. That's been removed from HBO Max. And again, it's all going up to these fast plans. Again,
so bizarre.
Like they're just gutting the service of their own original content. And yeah, maybe it's not quite The Wire and The Sopranos, or not The Sopranos and The Wire and whatever else yet. But it feels like nothing's off the table at this point. Like
it doesn't, and I don't understand it, because like I say, why would they not have both? Like, like you can go, hey, we can make money by giving it to, fast services, if that's what we're calling them. We get money from the ad revenue. And also, we've got the option of, hey, people can still come to us, and it's, you know, an extra thing in our library on HBO Max that people might want to subscribe for. Why would you not want the double dipping option, essentially?
If nothing else, it feels like Aslov, for whatever reason, he wants to seem to revert back to the old days. He wants to go back to where everything's licensed out and linear channels are the king of everything, and that's how he's treating all this. Because it feels like he has no interest in building a library on HBO Max that is desirable. And, you know, there's also talk of them changing the name to just Max once it's like this new version with Discovery, which, yeah, drop the HBO branding. That's that, because that's the part that no one liked.
Yeah, I guess I wonder if this is part of that restructuring, essentially, by making it feel less HBO heavy, and they want it to be more of a wider, inclusive service, as opposed to it feeling like HBO first and foremost. Because I for some reason I have to think he's looking at this going, we don't want it to be just HBO and this other stuff. So they're taking off some of these traditional HBO things and bringing in other stuff to make it feel like it's a wider service, even though it's objectively not, because it's, you know, got less content.
It's baffling to me. I don't understand the choices being made. I feel like all it's doing is crippling the service, which might be going up in price soon. And if it's going up in price and you're taking away content, and I don't get it. I don't get any of it.
It's not a good look.
It definitely feels like, why would anyone trust them to like release their content at this point? Like, you know, it feels so up in the air, and like things can just be taken away and locked in a vault forever because it saves them some tax money. Like,
yeah, obviously we've talked about, you know, these here now. Like, okay, at least these did air and were available. They're not anymore on there, but then you've got things like we've talked about the Batgirl movie in the past and all the other stuff that they've had like that. Where why are you still making stuff like? It's not good for anyone.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's wild. It feels like almost no story about HBO Max or Warner Brothers is surprising me right now at this point, because they've just made so many weird choices that that's just where we are now. But hey, so move on to the new comedies, and I think at least one animated show for the week. So first up, we have a multi-camera comedy at NBC called Amigos, coming from Sierra Teller Ornelas and Marcos Luvanos. And they'll be drawing inspiration from their own lifelong friendship for this. Amigos is about a group of 6 Latina friends living in Los Angeles who lean and rag on each other as they find love, grow up, and figure out what success means in 2022. Okay, so a group of 6 friends. That's really all that is.
Yeah.
There's some fluff to make it sound a bit fancier. So, fair enough.
I mean, it's a sitcom, right? You know, I know we say it all the time, but such a simple premise does not mean anything good or bad. If this has good writing, it could be amazing.
I don't think it's quite funny. It's 6 friends and it's called Amigos, because it does kind of sound like we've just taken Friends and we'll just do the Spanish version.
Love it, yeah.
Yeah. Which means it may be nothing like Friends in tone or comedy or whatever, but it's just...
Alternatively, they might be saying this is a modern successor to Friends.
Oh, yeah.
That might be an intentional statement.
Possibly, yeah. That's what they're going for, yeah. But that's just interesting. So that's called Amigos. Next up, Fox is developing a comedy called Remix from Sam Layburn from Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist and Nelik Beling, killing it. So it follows a progressive podcast-loving millennial who tries to modernize his father's old-school funk recording studio in an effort to save the family business and bond with his outdated, opinionated music producer dad. The only problem with this hopeful, optimistic vision is that dad thinks it sounds like touchy-feely garbage.
I'm on the dad's side.
All right, Boomer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Save the family business and bond with his outdated dad.
I was thinking
that's
it.
a bit professional and personal. It's a bit on that side.
Are we counting it?
Yes. Also, is this a turtleneck you're wearing, or is it just sort of close?
This is a mock neck. Actually,
it's a mock. So it's mocking the turtles.
Neck. Well, no, it's like halfway between a crew neck and a turtleneck. So the turtleneck will come like further up and roll. For all this, just a little bit more raised.
You look a prick either way, but
it's very comfortable and it's very warm, and that's what matters. And screw you. I apologize for having fashion.
Did you go for a color that sort of blended with your ginger beard, or was that?
You know what? It does look like that on this camera, on this light. It doesn't actually look like that in person.
Okay.
There is a bit more difference. The jumper is considerably lighter.
Okay. It almost looks like the beard's just like went really long and just covering the body.
I honestly noticed that when I saw the camera on the preview, and I was like, oh, that does not look like that in person.
So yes, that's remix. So you've got the generational gap as well, which is kind of a trope everywhere. As well in these descriptions. So
yeah, can't get away from it.
All right, next up, Amazon has got a comedy pilot. It's ordered a short half-hour comedy called Lifted, starring Ivy Woke, Veronica Taylor, Kate Godfrey, and Annie Marie Elliott. It comes from Jolene director Liza Mandelup and Yeast director Mary Bronstein. So the pilot explores the lives of 4 geographically, socio-economically, and racially diverse American teenage girls united by an online community built around shoplifting. A commentary on identity and how we communicate now. Lifted follows these young, awkwardly funny characters as they attempt to find themselves, form relationships, and discover their power and purpose.
I was worried there, but I'm like, no, these are teenagers. This can't be professional.
No, there's no profession. No profession. And
even if it did go that way, I wouldn't drink because I do not endorse shoplifting as a profession.
Well, no, now most people don't.
I'm just saying. We're taking a firm stance on this show.
It's like they were trying to trip me up with that intro though. 4 geographically, socioeconomically, and racially diverse. Come on, like give me a break with the words.
Well, what I'm getting is they're 4 very different people.
I just said they're 4 different people.
Well, but you gotta know how they're different.
All right. So that's that. Next up, Hulu. Up next. So the words Standing By, a satirical look into the lives of a group of eternally bound, irritated guardian angels and the lessons they'll eventually learn from not only the dysfunctional humans that they're in charge of protecting, but also one another. You could argue that's professional and personal.
I'm going to take that. Because the profession is protecting the humans.
Yes, and then each other. Yeah.
100% that falls into it. God damn it. I actually kind of like the sound of this one, though. That sounds kind of funny.
And this is an animated series, actually, as well. This is
even better, yeah.
Coming from 20th TV Animation and creators Dan Levi and Ali Pankey. Pankiw? Pankey?
IW
at the end, yeah.
Pankiw, maybe?
Pankiw?
But I don't know.
I assume it's the name's foreign, but I just I don't know how to pronounce that last part, but
yeah.
So cool. And then Danielle Ulrich is going to serve as showrunner and executive producer. So cool. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. All right, here's one that'll get a reaction from you.
Uh-oh.
So there's another attempt at a US remake of
oh yes, no, this is the 5th attempt. I know what this is because of course I know what this one is.
Yes, Peep Show is getting another go in the US.
Just stop it. You can't do it. Clearly, you've tried 4 times already. Stop it.
FX has ordered a pilot for this new remake written by Atlanta and What We Do in the Shadows executive producer Stephanie Robinson. I mean, that's some credits there.
It is,
to be fair.
I don't think it translates to American comedy. That they've tried.
This version, however, does not attempt to remake the show beat by beat and will feature 2 female leads, unlike the original. So they're doing their own thing with it.
Okay, no, it might work then. Because no, this is the thing. All of them have tried to do is they tried to use the same characters, and every single time it's felt like, that first, especially the first season, but the first episode of The Office, the US one, where it's just like cringing. It's like, why are you watching it? Every single Peep Show attempt so far has been like that. If all it is they're doing the first person and the inner monologues, that's what they're taking, because that's what makes Peep Show what it is, then there's no reason it shouldn't work.
I mean, given the fact that this person worked on What We Do in the Shadows, which is very much, let's take the concept of that movie, but not the characters, and do our own thing with it. Like, that stands to reason they might achieve something similar with this.
I think the 3 things you need for Peep Show is the characters have to be objectively awful people. Like, they have to be like self-loathing, or highly egotistical, like one of the two, and also just awful to everyone around them. Kind of in the same vein as like Always Sunny. You have to the first person camera, and you have to have the inner monologue of like them saying something out loud, and then their actual thoughts kind of being that contrasting views. I think those are the 3 things that you have to have for it to be Peep Show. Otherwise, it's just something else entirely.
Okay. Next up, Apple TV has ordered a spin-off to Mythic Quest. It's called Mere Mortals, an 8-episode companion series from Mythic Quest star Ashley Birch, John Howell Harris, and Katie Michelini. Mere Mortals, which will feature entirely new characters, will explore the lives of employees, players, and fans who are impacted by the game at the center of Mythic Quest. The new series takes a page out of the departure episodes of Mythic Quest, including an upcoming episode, Sarian, set to premiere on Friday. And so it's basically just saying there's some introductory elements and some upcoming
some
episodes.
Backdoor pilot stuff, essentially, yeah.
But yeah,
I got a new TV recently, and they gave me like, here, have 6 months of Apple Plus, TV Plus, whatever it's called now. I'm like, sure, I'll take it, because why wouldn't I? It's free. So I can get back and watch some of this. I'll probably watch Severance and Mythic Quest, and hopefully Ted Lasso season 3 will come out within these few months, because I'm waiting on it. Still,
it won't. It'll be like a month after your.
I am shocked that we have. I know you don't care, but we have the World Cup final on Sunday. I am shocked they haven't announced, when the new season is during the World Cup, while people are focused on football, more specifically than any other time.
I've been actively avoiding it. Thank you very much.
I'm sure, but it's still baffling that this isn't the time to announce it.
Maybe they're not ready to announce it.
I mean, they finished shooting it ages ago. It should be pretty much ready.
You say that. Maybe the editors are all drunk or something.
They're having some arguments. Yeah.
They can't agree on the close-up or the medium close-up for one pivotal scene, and the argument's just never ending.
They keep saying that there's not enough Roy in this scene. We need to edit in more.
All right, out of the dramas then. We got a whole host of things to talk about. First up, Mike Flanagan and Trevor Macy, they're at Intrepid Pictures, have acquired the rights to do a Dark Tower adaptation. So, and these are the guys that have just left Netflix and have signed a deal with Amazon.
So presumably this would be Amazon.
Yeah. At the very least, they'll get first dibs at it, if nothing else.
And I can't see Amazon saying no to something like that.
Yeah. So it's interesting because there's obviously been attempts not too long ago. There was the movie. There were supposed to be tie-in TV shows to that movie. It all kind of fell apart because the movie wasn't very good, and everything just kind of crumbled.
Did you ever watch it?
Nah.
Oh, I did. It wasn't even like the worst movie ever. It was just so boring.
Yeah. So these are the two. Obviously, everyone knows Flanagan because he's the director and stuff. But Tracy Macy was also part of that as well. He did so. Yeah, they're looking at an adaptation of the Dark Tower, which obviously is like I mean, the main series is like 7 books. There might be some companions added out of that as well, but
Yeah, it's a gauntlet, and that's just before you even acknowledge the wider King universe that it kind of
yeah,
collectively brings together. And, has the stuff that it brings in from other places.
yeah. So obviously it's very daunting, and I'm sure some of that stuff that it brings in might not be in the series, just because you don't necessarily have rights to everything to bring it all in.
Yeah,
I would assume. So you may be a bit more focused in that sense. But yeah, there was a time when there was supposed to be like 3 movies and 2 seasons of a TV show was going to be an adaptation. This was like an early 2010s thing where it was going to be movie, season of TV, movie, season of TV, movie. And that was going to be the big grand. So for some reason, this idea of like doing like both movie and TV for Dark Tower has been like an idea for a long time. I think maybe them attempting to just do it in one format and a TV show is probably a better idea, regardless of however the story breaks up.
I think just given the scale of it, I think it's more suited for TV than it ever was for movies. Like, they want movies because it's like, hey, this makes us shitloads of money and it's got a big name attached to it that we should, in theory, be able to, sell tickets to. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way, but in theory, I get that's why they wanted it there. But yeah, TV was always the more natural home for adaptation, I would say.
Yeah. So, in fact, the last one that almost happened was Amazon. Funnily enough, the article just reminded me here. So, no, very very interesting. But obviously, Flanagan at this point has adapted multiple Stephen King properties. He did he did Gerald's Game. He did the sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep.
Yep.
So he's done a few things with the director's work at this point. So this could be like his magnum opus, his Stephen King adaptation magnum opus, if it all goes to plan.
Stamp on that stuff.
Yeah. So it would be cool if it actually is a good adaptation. I've always been curious about the series, but never actually got around to reading it because I ain't got time for that. But
yeah, you don't read books.
I don't have time to read books. Every time I try to listen to an audiobook, I get through like 2 chapters and then I just I got other things to do.
That's why you read an actual book.
Oh yeah, because that'll take less time.
It takes me less time sometimes. I mean, admittedly, it depends if what speed I'm listening to the audiobook on, but I don't listen to anything below 1.5 speed, and some of them I'll listen to at like 3 times speed.
Is that even audible at that point?
Oh yeah, every word. I'm just used to, it depends on the narrator. Some of them talk faster than others, but obviously, yeah, with some of them, I can listen at 3 times speed comfortably. I pretty much every podcast I listen to is at 2 speed. Some of them are occasionally slightly lower if they're a fast talker, but most of them are at 2 times speed.
Okay, interesting. But yeah, so that's that. Speaking of Amazon, they have officially ordered a season 1 of a God of War TV show based on the video game franchise, and I think everyone's expecting it to be the 2018
I think they
version.
Outright said as much, didn't they?
Oh, did they?
The article, I mean, maybe the article I read was making some assumptions, but the article I did glance at...
Oh, there is a synopsis. Yeah. There's a synopsis here, hon. Written by Mark Fergus and Hawk Otsby, with Rafe Judkins serving as showrunner, who worked on The Wheel of Time, which is still going on at Amazon, actually. So interesting how they're splitting their time. The series follows Kratos, the god of war, who, after exiling himself from his blood-soaked past in ancient Greece, hangs up his weapons forever in the Norse realm of Midgard. Yeah, so this is the 2018. When his beloved wife dies, Kratos sets off on a dangerous journey with his estranged son to spread her ashes from the highest peak, his wife's final wish. Kratos soon realizes the journey is an epic quest in disguise, one which will test the bonds between father and son and force Kratos to battle the new gods and monsters of the fate of the world. What's interesting about this is that I'm halfway through, give or take, the sequel, Ragnarok, which came out this year, and that definitely seems to be opening up what the plot is quite a bit, because the first game, and what this is describing here, is very simply they're trying to scatter the mother's ashes and they're making this journey to get to the mountaintop, and some stuff gets in the way. right?
Yeah, that tends to happen in a story.
That's basically it. But the second game, is interesting in all these prophecies and is talking about like like all the relationships with the father and son and Mimir and everything else. Like all of it's really kicking off, and the Freya stuff is like it's so full of all these things. It feels much more complex plot wise. So I'd be very interested to see if this is successful and is good, which is a big if because video game adaptations don't have the greatest track record. I'd be very curious. Like, it takes a long time to make games. Okay, the second game is there for season 2 to be made, but
I'd say a couple of things. One, my copy of Ragnarok arrived today.
Okay.
Rentals because that's how I play most games like that. I'm actually waiting. I've got like 4 days off over Christmas, so I'm gonna because Paige actually really enjoy watching like those sorts of games. But obviously I like playing them, but she likes watching the stories of them. So I'll probably pull the PS5 out into the main room for those 4 days and kind of just play through it all in that period where we're off together. So I'm looking forward to that. From my understanding, though, Ragnarok is a significantly longer game than the first one, so that's probably you might even have 2 seasons worth of content. So you could probably get a 3-season show out of the 2 things, especially if they start including some side stuff.
Possibly. I will say though that would be maybe a pacing issue because having played half of Ragnarok, I do think the first half is a little slow at times. And what I've heard from everyone is that there's a point just after the halfway mark where it kind of kicks in properly, and then the last like 10 hours is really good. Like that's what I've been hearing from multiple podcasts and things like that, and I've been enjoying it. It's actually still really good to play, but there is definitely some sort of slow build stuff going on, and in that first half where you're kind of waiting for like what's the meat of this story as of yet. And I think I'm right at the crux of that actually. I'm just about to get to that point where I am.
There's always a danger of that. I would say again with the caveat that I'm inherently not super excited, despite I love the God of War games, especially the 2018 one. I'm not like I can just play it again. I don't really need a TV show. It's the same way I feel about the Last of Us show, right? Where I'm like, I mean, sure, cool, might be good, probably will be. Last of Us specifically, this one remains to be seen. But do I really need it? But I do wonder in terms of the adaptation of the pacing things. Maybe if they take some notes from what they did with The Expanse, where maybe season 1 isn't the entirety of just the first game. Maybe they can kind of split things up a little bit funnily, and kind of we have some stuff halfway through a season, as opposed or halfway through a game, we kind of split things a bit differently to where we might expect, like The Expanse did, where it split its books.
I'm not against that in theory, but I'm just wondering, like, is there any, like, having played the first game, is there any way you could end that in terms of a season before the end of that story and it not feel just kind of undone?
Possibly not, but I think you can go the other way and do have that done in, let's say hypothetically 8 episodes, and then you can have 2 episodes or 5 depending on what the order is. I don't know if it says in that article.
I don't think so, but I would imagine it's 8 or 10. That seems to be
that was my assumption. But like if it's 10, for example, which is a pretty common order, you can have 8 episodes being that first game, and then you can have a couple of episodes kind of being part epilogue, part covering, if not the start of the next game, maybe some of that kind of early beats, kind of filling in some stuff there. There's some license to maybe kind of stretch some things around. I don't know. I think having not played Ragnarok yet, I think it's easy to get hung up on just like, okay, this is where this ends and that's where this season ends. So, but maybe we can shift some things around with an adaptation, and maybe they can be smart about it.
Maybe, but the second game, like, part of the reason why it's longer is not so much because there's necessarily that much more story. It's just you're doing gameplay things. That are, there's a lot of open areas in the first half where you're sort of doing side quests and
That's true, but again, I say this from pre-release kind of interviews, there is, I think, a certain amount more story than the first one, at least in the way they're selling it, because they would talk about, well, we was going to be 3 games, some maybe, but they kind of were like, no, let's just kind of condense into one bigger second game instead of a third game in this part of the franchise. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, but I've played half the game, and I'm telling you,
I'm aware. Yeah.
There's not story in that first half to make a season out of. Like quite simply, it's just not there. There's not enough of it. So I don't think. I mean, maybe there's like a neater split point later on because it's so packed in the last third that you could do it that way. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, games take so long to make, and if that's the source material for this show, then they might hit a point where they're waiting on the next game, or they're basically looking at the script for the game before the game's even out to actually start working on the next season or whatever.
This is what I'm saying. There is only 2 games in this Norse saga of God of War, which is what the show is. There isn't going to be a third game.
Maybe not in the quote unquote Norse saga. There's going to be a third game.
There's going to be another God of War game. Yes, of course there is. But if this show is specifically adapting the Norse saga, then I don't know. Like
they're not ordering this thinking we're only getting 2 or 3 seasons out of it and that's it. Like that might all ends up being, but they're ordering this with the hope that they can keep adapting and keep going because it's a big TV show. That's what they want. So it doesn't matter what the technical cutoff is. Like if there's a third God of War game and their first couple of seasons of this show are doing well, they're going to do that next game as the next season. Like you could bet money on it.
They could, but they could also potentially look at doing like a quote unquote flashback, stuff, and kind of do the, do you as a framing device and kind of do the what for the show would be prequel content of kind of doing some adaptations of some of the the original games.
You could do snippets of that in Flash, but I don't think you could do whole seasons of that though. At least, I mean, I think it'd be really weird because Kratos is a very different character in that old stuff, and I don't know if it would appeal to people who grow attached to him in this story. Would they want to go back to just a complete bastard season where he's just a prick?
I agree. I think that would actually be fascinating to watch. Just in terms of not necessarily the show would be fascinating to watch, but just the perception from the public that I would love to watch. But 2, I think for me, maybe that's even the more interesting thing is them proving how they can adapt it differently and maybe kind of take inspiration rather than a direct adaptation of those earlier games and kind of change it till to make it into a version where their Kratos still fits, roughly, and kind of really stretch their creative muscles, on the rent department. And for me, that makes it an even more worthwhile existence as an adaptation.
I think for me, this more signs something different. Same with Last of Us, where Last of Us is the same thing. The first season is the first game, and if it's a second season, it's probably the second game. The second game you could maybe do into 2 seasons, but I don't think that would really work, given that. I don't want to spoil the game, but
I know exactly what you're thinking as to what you do for those seasons, but I agree.
It's kind of like, and this is something they did, which is why I can criticize it. It's kind of like splitting it into 2 movies. Well, technically you can do it. It kind of doesn't work because the whole point is that they function together as the one story. So yeah. But I wouldn't do that. But so the point I'm getting at is that I think some seasons of TV take longer now, right? Sometimes seasons of a show aren't a year apart. Sometimes it takes 2 years for the next season, and so on and so on. I think, and then you've got something like True Detective on HBO, where they just do another season when they get another like creative team together to do the next one, right? Because they're doing a 4th season, even though season 1 was like 2012 or whatever it was. It was a long time ago. So I think we're maybe getting to this point here where they will, they'll do this season, and maybe they'll do a season 2 based on the second game if it's successful, and that'll take a couple of years. And then at that point, they might just very well wait for a third game before they do a third season. And similar to Last of Us, although there was reports this week that Neil Druckmann's working on Last of Us 3, that's his next game, which makes some sense, especially since they've got this...
a huge surprise, yeah.
I mean, they've got this TV show coming, so I suspect there's an inkling to okay, finish off your trilogy now rather than doing something else first, because the material needs to be there for other reasons. Like there's dependability on it now. It's not just its own thing. And I think we're maybe reaching a period now though where TV shows can just be these like season events that come back for when there is the next part of the story there. I don't think it goes on forever, but I think when there's something loosely mapped out, maybe you get away with that. I don't know. Which is why I brought up in the first place. I think it's interesting adapting something where you're running up against this, like there's a definite wall where there's no more stuff to adapt very quickly, relatively speaking, once you've done a couple of seasons. And just how they tackle that. Do they treat it as a big deal where they go, no, we'll wait until the next game's out, and then or
do you take the traditional anime approach of adapting from manga where they get caught up and just make up some stuff for some filler for a season? Essentially,
some filler,
and I don't mean to say that like it'll be bad quality, because some filler, not all filler is created equal, right? But filler in the sense of not a direct adaptation, they're kind of just making stuff up.
Yeah, which would be under kind of a microscope, I think, from the audience, because it's like, is this going to feel different? Are we going to be able to tell that you didn't have the gameplay? In the same way that everything I hear about those last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones is less than positive. So,
yeah, and the same goes with something like Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. Season 1,
yeah,
exceptional. And then after that, this slow decline afterwards.
Like I say, I think it takes a higher caliber of writers than maybe were available on some of those shows, or at least from a top-down showrunning perspective. I think it takes a high caliber from there to kind of be ballsy, make those decisions, kind of call the big shots of, okay, this is the beats that we're going to do, as opposed to writing the individual scenes between characters. But that doesn't mean it can't be done.
Yeah. Track record's not great, though. I'll have to say that. So,
it's not, but neither is the track record in adapting games at all. So
no, that's true. But I mean, this might be the method going forward. I mean, at the very least, I mean, Last of Us actually looks like it might be great. So we'll see how that goes. Because other than that, the gold standard right now is what, Sonic 2?
And I never saw Sonic 2. I didn't really like the first one that much.
It's more the same. I mean,
yeah.
The point I'm making is though is the standard's not very high.
I still think, which again, this is not high praise. I think the standard for me is probably still the Tomb Raider movie, which the more recent Tomb Raider movie, not the Angelina Jolie ones. Again, I'm not saying it's a great movie. It's a fine movie.
If we're going off interesting, being a good, like barometer here rather than quality, by far the most interesting one is still 1993 Super Mario Brothers. Fascinating movie. Fascinating.
I honestly thought you were going to go with like a Mortal Kombat.
That's not interesting. It's probably the easiest to watch, but no, that Super Mario Bros. Movie is weird as shit. It's so interesting.
100% interesting.
Yeah, which is why this new animated one, it may technically be more accurate, but it's a very safe movie. Like that 1993 one, that took risks, that took swings.
And this is what I'm saying. We need a showrunner who will take those swings in between seasons of God of War and go, this is what we're going to do, and screw it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to get to a more simple question here is, do I want an adaptation of this God of War? Do I like the idea of watching the story play out again? I'm not so sure, because the mythology inherently isn't as interesting to me. I like the games a lot, and I get into the story of it because the characters are good and the writing between them's good. The father-son bond between Kratos and Atreus is good. But like, I don't know if I mean, admittedly, you'd be cutting out a lot of obviously like the stuff that you get in a game that's just game stuff. But I'm not sure it would be excellent, and you're going to have that problem of Kratos is going to sound different, and in the same way that when they did the Uncharted movie, I mean, it looked terrible for a lot of reasons. And this is no knock on Tom Holland, but like Nathan Drake has a voice. Like Nolan North is Nathan Drake, and it's hard to like hear anything else and go, I accept that as that character.
But you have that problem with any adaptation from like this. Like you're gonna have, in theory, you're gonna have that problem with Last of Us, right? I would say I think say what you want about the show. I think Henry Cavill did a great job in The Witcher of kind of being like, no, he's still, that character, despite the fact that, we're all very familiar already.
Do you know, I think it doesn't affect The Last of Us as much. And I think the reason why it doesn't affect it as much, and
is it your bias?
No, it's not bad. It's those roles are they're not caricature, like Nathan Drake and to an extent Kratos, even though Kratos definitely has some depth in the modern games. They're very like, I don't want to say one note, but they're very like they're big characters, whereas Ellie and Joel in Last of Us feel like characters in a drama. They feel like anyone could play those roles as long as they're good actors. They feel like it's more about the human drama of it. Whereas Kratos, like Nathan Drake, he's got this weight, he's got this try. It's like trying to say anyone else should be Indiana Jones other than Harrison Ford. Kratos has got such a distinctive voice that it is like imagining. It's like when they did Metal Gear 5 and they replaced the guy who did Snake with Kiefer Sutherland, and everyone was like, "This is weird. We don't like it. It's not him." It's a bit more like that. I don't think with Joel and Ellie you quite have that same. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'll always think of the video game versions first, but it's very different. I don't. You don't watch. I don't know. Like sure, there's actors in like say Better Call Saul that we can't imagine someone else playing those roles, but I wouldn't say that. If they ever did like some sort of thing where they wanted to have a cameo of a character but didn't have the actor anymore, it would be distracting because we're so used to that actor. But I don't think it would be because that character just boils down to like a couple of simple notes, if that makes sense.
I think I get where you're coming from. I don't know if I fully agree. Maybe I'm just more used to hearing different takes on characters. I listen to like a lot of like audio dramas, especially like Doctor Who stuff, and a lot of like that earlier stuff. It doesn't have those doctors, right? It doesn't have those actors. They're not, they're not around or they weren't available. Various reasons. And I'm just very used to hearing kind of replacements and things like that. So maybe I'm just more used to having that stuff, and maybe that's why this doesn't bother me as much in terms of those adaptations.
I think it just varies just on the character. Like I say, Kratos is such a distinctive voice and look and personality, and honestly, like you brought up Witcher, but I had that problem with Witcher. Like I thought Henry Cavill just didn't feel right. Like he never did. Which doesn't matter now because he left it for Superman, and then DC said, "Lol, sorry, we're not doing any more of that." So that's all irrelevant now. But there is. I think it's different from like adapting comic books and books because you have a performance, you have a voice, you have a look that's like you associate that's more closer to an actor in a movie already. That it's harder to accept a different one. Sometimes you can easily switch because some roles just lend themselves to like different actors, but sometimes it's just like that role is that person, and anyone else just feels wrong.
It's weird. I don't know. Maybe this is again something like my love of like Bond, where James Bond is very much a caricature of a character, right? Traditionally, not a lot of depth, but I've been played by how many at this point that I'm perfectly willing to just go, yeah, sure, there's another one. And then maybe part of that is just you're used to it with that character, and maybe just the more it happens with other characters, the more you just get used to it with them.
Yeah, but I think part of it's also a tone thing. Like that's Bond's this pulpy, light-hearted thing. It's a bit hard to accept, like say like a new sequel to The Godfather that recasts like Al Pacino or something. It's like, oh, this is wacky. Like why is the main character of this like drama, this in-depth, thoughtful drama? Not that anyone's hankering for a fourth Godfather after the third one, but I'm trying to think of an example where it's.
See, this is fascinating because this feels like a complete counterpoint to your argument that you had before, where with Joel and Lily, the real people, anyone could play them just as long as they're good actors. as opposed to the caricatures. Whereas now you've just gone the opposite way. I've gone, oh, well, they got, it's we can't just have any actor. It's got to be him specifically.
I mean, that's a fair point, and that counters what I said before, but I was just using that as an example of like someone who's famous in a role. I was using that just to counter your thing saying any role can be replaced at any point, and you just get used to it if it's the same character over and over again. Like, I'm not so sure, like, some roles, if you replace them like 5 times, I think all of the ones that came after the first one will just all feel false. It doesn't matter how many times you do it.
I think only if the performances aren't good enough.
They can have good performance and someone can still be miscast.
They can be miscast. Again, I'm assuming the casting is still, objectively speaking, good casting. It may not be the exact same person as the first one, but still good casting overall.
I mean, this has kind of just evolved into a debate of this thing in general rather than anything specific to the show we're talking about. But it's just I think part of it as well is that, at least in these other examples, the other person's done and you move on and you're in a new era. So if you're talking about Bond, you're done with the Connery era, and yeah, he did come back for that one weird one, but like other than that, you move on to a new era. Maybe some time has passed, maybe it's not, depending on what it is, because it just depends on the franchise or whatever. But I think what's weird about these video game examples is that they're concurrent at the same time, and we've not said goodbye to the other version yet. It's like, no, we're still doing this. We're still waiting on the third one. We're still waiting on the next part of these original version stories. But we're still also doing the TV show or the movie or whatever at the same time. And that makes it harder to deal with and sort of wrap your head around and accept. And it ultimately always makes the adaptation feel like it is this ancillary thing. Like, as good as it might be, and so far, none of them have been good. Let's get that up front.
And even though they'll, statistically speaking, most likely have a significantly higher audience than the games do.
Yeah, the audience won't care, though, as anywhere near as much as the audience for the game does.
Yeah.
So, and even if it's got a big audience, as we've seen time and time again, technically the audience that watched the Tomb Raider movie is probably bigger than any audience that's ever played a Tomb Raider game, but that wasn't enough to make the movie successful.
No, those games still made more money.
Yeah.
Or at least more profit.
Yeah. So, it's, I don't know, it's an interesting thing to think about. And what's funny is part of the reason why it doesn't bother me maybe as much with The Last of Us is something I can't say, but it fits into something I just said about having already moved on.
Okay.
Like there's kind of an element to it that. So I do wonder, like, if you're still waiting on like the next game with I've not finished Ragnarok yet, so I don't know who lives and dies. Like, so half of them could be dead for all I know. But, like, assuming some of the characters are sticking around for a potential third game at some point, you're waiting for the next part of these stories, but then you get introduced to these other versions in the TV show. I just wonder, like, if that's part of the problem, is that you have this thing where you're not done with the other original version yet, so you can't, like, move on and accept a different version.
That's possible. Like I say, having not played Ragnarok and you've not finished it, it's very realistically possible that game ends with. Please don't spoil this in the comments, anyone. Don't confirm or deny this. Just make this very clear. Just don't, for anyone, just don't reference it. But it's very possible that Kratos is dead, Atreus takes his place, and that's what the next games will be, right? That's a plausible place that game could end.
Yeah, and that would sort of both add into the idea that we're moving into a new phase, but it also backs up my thing. If you're doing a TV show, that very easily could be season 3. Is like, okay, we're moving on to Atreus on his own. Again, I've not finished the game. I don't know if Kratos dies or not. This is pure speculation.
Wild speculation, yes.
But it just seems like a natural thing that could happen. The only reason why it might not is because Sony are saying, no, we want more Kratos games, so you're not killing him off.
Kratos is an icon, right? Especially, Sony don't have too many of those that they can claim right now as their own anymore.
It's kind of weird because Sony,
they have a lot that they're associated with, but there's not a lot that they necessarily own.
Back from the PS1 days, but it's kind of funny because their games moved into this kind of big, like, narrative, like, more thoughtful storytelling. So Like Joel and Ellie are absolutely they're two of their big characters, but they're just not mascots in the same way that a Crash Bandicoot is.
And even like I said, Kratos is a deeper character now for sure, but he has a very distinctive design, which makes him more of a mascot still.
Yes. So I don't know. This is interesting thoughts. We went on for about 20 minutes there.
Yeah.
On that, so I apologies if you didn't care about any of that conversation, but we'll move on to something that I definitely do not care about. But good news for Henry Cavill, because he gave up Witcher to go do more Superman, and then James Gunn and co got this role of being the head of DC's like universe, and they said
told him to piss off.
And told me to piss off because, and quite rightly, I think they're making the smart choice. Start from scratch, burn it to the ground, and just start fresh. Which leaves like the 4 DC movies that are still to come out in a weird place of like, why should we care about any of these? Because they're all just...
It's a ballsy choice, I think, especially because, James Gunn was involved with some of those movies in that universe.
Yeah, that's true.
He's putting his own stuff under the bus as well.
Yeah, and he's writing the next Superman movie apparently. I don't think he should direct it. He doesn't feel like the right choice for me for a Superman, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
So they made all those choices. They're starting from scratch, and like I said, that leaves Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, and Flash. All just
maybe.
Yeah. Well, so it's like, okay, I guess we'll just shit all those out so we can get to whatever the new stuff is. This is obviously separate from the Batman sequel because that's separate from the universe anyway,
and separate from the Joker sequel.
Yes, which don't remind me.
I am wildly fascinated by.
I don't want to know about it. But so Henry Cavill finds out, nope, that's not happening either. We're going to go with someone younger to like be Superman potentially for a while. Which once upon a time was supposed to be Cavill, but then everything just kind of shit the bed.
Yeah, that was like a decade ago.
Yes. Yeah, it's 9 years ago, Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Time's moved on a bit. So, luckily for him, there's one other thing he loves other than Witcher. And that is Warhammer 40K.
Which I can get behind.
And once again, Amazon are behind like almost everything we've talked about drama-wise in some form. They're not necessarily officially attached to the Dark Tower thing yet, but they're probably going to be. So,
do you know what it is?
Yes.
Amazon got money.
They want their big hits. They want to like set their they've got the Lord of the Rings show, which
I was just gonna say that's what this is interesting, because remember before Lord of the Rings, like in that few weeks before it started, there was all that talk that this is make or break for Amazon Video. They're big high profile things where if this flops, they're kind of done not in making content, but in terms of making content on that scale. And I think the fact that they're announcing, things like this that clearly need scale, and I'm assuming they're going to give scale. God of War, Warhammer, means they were presumably quite happy with Lord of the Rings' performance, despite them not actively, saying that.
Yeah, but at least financially, it seems to have done well. I mean, the word of mouth didn't seem to be that great on it by and large.
It's a fine show. I love. No, there's one episode I love. There's a few episodes I think are pretty good. They're like, it's TV, right? It's good TV, but it's not like amazing TV. I don't think any of it is bad. Oh, I made that very clear. I don't think there's any point in the show where I'm like, this is bad. I do think, I think the reveals and stuff towards the end of the season were, I felt predictable, but maybe that was just me being overly familiar with the lore already. I don't know.
Well, I didn't like the pilot that much. I mean, admittedly, I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy, but
I'll give it this. I stuck with the Lord of the Rings show and watched the entire season, whereas its rival of the moment was the Game of Thrones show, which I kind of fell off after 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah, but everyone who liked that though said it was great. Like that got way better praise.
It
online.
did, but I completely fell off that, whereas I stuck with the Lord of the Rings one.
Well,
yeah,
I was too busy watching something else that was good. I don't remember what
Andor.
at the time.
Andor, it was very good.
It wasn't Andor, no.
It should have been Andor. It was really damn good.
No. So anyway, Henry Cavill's attached to star and executive producer in Warhammer 40K for Amazon Studios, who have acquired the rights to the game. This is like an ultra nerdy thing that, despite the fact that I am would describe myself as fairly ultra nerdy. Warhammer is like another level deeper. Like Warhammer is something I do not understand. I know it's like a tabletop thing where people paint models. I know that 40k specifically is like a sci-fi version of Warhammer.
It's the main kind of version of Warhammer.
Yeah, but I don't understand it. Like, there's video games that come out every so often from Warhammer that are really successful and popular. I don't know anyone who actually plays any of them, but they're very successful.
I saw a preview review for the next one that's coming out. I think it's called Rogue Trader. Looks fantastic. I'm definitely going to be playing that Warhammer game. I haven't played any of the games. I have read quite a lot of Warhammer books at this point, especially 40k books. There's a lot of them written by Dan Abnett.
Do you know what Warhammer feels like to me? Warhammer feels like to me those overproduced cutscenes that Blizzard make for their games that look really expensive but just feel like the same thing every time.
Yes, they are. It's oh no, okay. It is, you have to enter Warhammer, especially 40k, knowing and being fully aware that it is satirical and ironic. It is not. It is grimdark fantasy, but it is not to be taken seriously, and it knows it's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's supposed to be over the top and stupid, and this commentary on everything.
Well, I've got a little description here that they've given for the show. Warhammer 40,000. Does anyone ever say it that way?
No.
Yeah, just 40k. Warhammer 40k. Because they're writing out the number. Well, they're not putting 40 in a
I
K.
think officially they still do write 40,000, although they do show on it, I think, as well on their own stuff sometimes. But
so Warhammer 40k is set in the far future where humanity stands at the edge of what might be its brightest future or its darkest age. The threats to humankind's empire are many. Traitors driven by the fires of ambition, alien empires sworn to reclaim the stars, and the corruption of reality by malevolent gods. That's the description.
Okay. So there is a lot of very different things in the Warhammer 40k universe that just telling me they're doing Warhammer 40k means almost nothing, right?
Oh sure.
You've got like you've got the traditional, the space ultramarines, right, which are just big crazy action soldiers, right? You can do that. You've got Inquisitor stuff where you can have it be essentially a detective show. I've read books where it was essentially a pilot dogfighters, like almost like World War II dogfight stuff. Like it really is that much stuff in this world that I'm inherently a little bit excited just because I like Warhammer. I like a lot of the stories I've read in the Warhammer world. I like Cavill. I know he's obviously very passionate about Warhammer, so I'm assuming he probably cares enough that there'll be some sort of quality from him.
Nerd.
Yeah, I know.
What a nerd he is.
He is. He really is. But I mean, by all accounts, this is why he left The Witcher, is that he wasn't happy with the way they were changing things from the material, and he didn't feel like he wanted to, keep doing that. He didn't want to be a part of that. So I mean, I don't know if he has any sort of creative control over this.
Yeah.
But again, he'll walk away if he doesn't approve of it, I assume.
He's a producer on it, so I assume he has a bit more
but
sway on it.
Is that one of those actual producers, or is it just one of those, we'll give you the credit sort of thing?
I mean, he's nerdy enough that he might have made sure he's got control.
Yeah, he might actually even, especially after potentially, again, this is all hearsay, but if what happened with The Witcher is true, maybe he had some sort of stipulation of, I want a bit more say over what I agree here.
Yeah, I'm making fun. Like, I have nothing against Warhammer as a thing. It's just like a whole side of nerddom that I've never looked at, and it just looks overly complex. And especially when I compare it to those Blizzard like trailers for their games, like Blizzard lore as well just looks like unapproachable to me in a way that just feels like, I don't know.
I think what makes Warhammer surprisingly approachable is so many things are like sectioned off, so you don't need to know everything. You can kind of just pick. You go, hey, I like the look of that one thing. I'll go and read some books about that one thing, and you don't really need to know much about anything else in the wider context of all the other things that are happening.
Yeah, so I have no attachment to this property. It's the sort of thing where the show might be good. Maybe it'll pull in new people and
I had never thought of it, but I could totally see Cavill as Eisenhorn, and it means nothing to you, I'm aware, but that's the Eisenhorn trilogy are like some of the most well regarded Warhammer books. Some Dan Abnett ones, in fact, and they're a great starting point for anyone interested.
It wouldn't surprise me if one of the most well regarded trilogies ends up being the source material for their TV show.
That's what I'm thinking, and like I can see Cavill as Gregor Eisenhorn. I think he could pull that off. I kind of really hope it is that. I'd be down for that.
Yeah. So, I think, yeah, by all means, like, go make a good show. Maybe it'll pull people in, and maybe you'll make new fans out of it. I don't know, but there you go. Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
Something I'm not nerded enough for, apparently.
Yeah, turns out I am.
Yeah. And I mean, no insults to anyone who is, for the right. Well, I'll insult Connor happily, but everyone else.
I will say, I don't play with the miniatures primarily because, boy, they're pricey, and I do not want to get caught in that hobby because, I can't keep up with that.
Yes. Well, let's move on then. Let's get some other TV dramas. People have heard us talk about video games or stuff equivalent to video games for the last, 40 minutes at this point. Yeah. So, moving on. Jake Gyllenhaal is going to... Oh, he's in negotiations anyway, to star and executive produce in a show at Apple TV Plus, a limited series called Presumed Innocent, from David E. Kelly and J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot production company.
Okay.
Presumed Innocent was a novel. It was published in 1987, and it was even turned into a 1990 feature film starring Harrison Ford. Actually, that sounds kind of familiar now that I've pointed out.
Yeah.
So it tells the story of a horrific murder that upends the Chicago prosecuting attorney's life when one of its own is suspected of the crime. And Gyllenhaal will play Rusty Sabich, or Sabic? Probably Sabich. I go to the hard ch because I'm Scottish, but it's probably Sabich.
Yeah,
probably. The Feverian prosecutor is suspected of killing a close colleague when the evidence begins to point to him, and that was the role that was played by Ford in the movie. So maybe this is an attempt to try and flesh, because obviously a movie, you've got 2 hours. If this is 6, hour-long episodes, you get to flesh it out a bit and do more of the book.
Into that mystery, yeah.
So I could see, and Apple, if nothing else, I think they've got some great shows. I think they've got some not great shows. Most of the stuff they make looks like it's got money, though. So,
I think they're willing. I mean, they're a very rich company. I think they're willing to commit to at least looking the part.
Yeah. And then speaking of Apple, we got another show from them here. Taron Egerton is working with Apple TV again. He worked with them on Blackbird just recently. That was out this year. So he's working with them again on Firebug, which is inspired by events surrounding the notorious California arsonist John Leonard Orr. So, based on a true story, this one. Blackbird creator Dennis Lehane is working on it as well. So he's working with the same team. It's basically they're getting the band back together and doing another story. So Firebug will follow the troubled detective and an enigmatic arson investigator played by Rocketman star Egerton as they pursue the trails of 2 serial arsonists. I mean, that as much as it doesn't necessarily sound that different to a lot of things, I feel like they don't tend to be chasing arsonists. I feel like that sounds a little bit more unique versus just a killer, because it's usually just a killer.
It is usually just a killer.
Look at Connor being such a cat person now.
I hate this.
Oh no, you were.
He does not leave me alone.
You were petting him there.
Oh no, I have to. He literally goes just to my hand and just will not stop until I give him some attention. Very annoying.
As he deserves.
No, he does not deserve.
He deserves.
I am busy. or I am sleeping is usually the point where he decides now is time for attention.
Oh dear. So yeah, former firefighter Orr was an arson investigator for the Glendale Fire Department in Southern California. Initially hired to understand and track down cases of arson, he became a convicted serial arsonist himself. So he was he was the arson investigator. It was an inside job. It was an inside job all along.
He got corrupted.
He was found to be the cause of a spate of high-profile fires across California in the 1980s and 90s that led to tens of millions of dollars in damage and 4 deaths. His nicknames included the Pillow Pyro, Frito Bandito, and the Coin Tosser. The Coin Tosser? I don't know where that one comes from.
I don't know, but I love all of them.
Frito Bandito, that's
a great one.
Orr's modus operandi was to set fire in stores while they were open and populated. That's pretty dangerous. What the hell, dude? Using an incendiary timing device, usually comprising a lit cigarette and 3 matches wrapped in a ruled yellow writing paper and secured by a rubber band. He also would set small fires, often in grassy hills, in order to draw firefighters, leaving fires set in more congested areas unattended. Oh, yeah, this guy's a complete prick. Like, he's setting small fires to get to distract the fire department, and then he's going and setting bigger fires elsewhere. Come on.
Grade A word I'm not allowed to say.
Honestly, this almost sounds like something the Joker would do.
A little bit.
This is a Gotham City supervillain level of nonsense. So
yeah,
definitely see why they're making a story about him. And honestly, given all the sort of wildfires that happen in California, that's a big problem. These days, this especially feels quite egregious. So
it does. It's a real dick move.
So that sounds like an interesting story, at least. So
it does.
There you go. So I guess that means Egerton is going to be doing an American accent. Very good.
Probably. I feel like he's done one in something or other.
He probably has.
I don't remember it being great, but I mean, maybe they'll give him an accent coach.
Next up, FX has given a pilot order to The Border, a drama based on the third book, not the first book, the third book in Don Winslow's best-selling Cartel trilogy. This is coming from Daniel Zellman from Damages and Bloodline, Shane Salerno from Salinger, Avatar sequels, and FX Productions. As in the movies, the Avatar sequels? That's an interesting thread to throw in there. So Zellman will serve as writer and showrunner and executive producer alongside Salerno. So The Border is an epic saga that reveals the dark truths about America's failed 50-year war on drugs. Taking us from the streets of New York to the poppy fields of Mexico, the jungles of Central America, and the White House. The Border explodes the myths, and that is explodes, not explores. I didn't say that.
Yeah, I just assumed you did, but no, just not going to say anything.
So no, it's an intention. I guess it's an intentional play on words. It explodes the myths of the drug war through the intertwining narratives of characters on both sides of the Mexican-American border. An obsessive Mexican-American DEA agent, a young boxing promoter who inherits a drug empire, a jaded teenager who rises to power in the world of high-class escorts, and an Irish kid from the streets of Hell's Kitchen who becomes a ruthless international hitman. We follow these characters on raw, unflinching journey through history as they are pulled ever deeper into the drug war and forced to confront the limits of their humanity.
Ooh. That's a strong tagline. Hang on, he's pressed something. I've got no sound.
I guess I'll just keep speaking. So
I'm good. I'm good.
There we go. All right.
He hit the mute on the keyboard.
Very good. Very good. Good cat. All right. So, I mean, this sounds like a crime show. I mean, by and large,
it definitely does. Yeah.
It's got a lot of different types of characters at the very least. But
it could be good, but again, it doesn't. From the description alone, appeal to me that much because crime show.
Yeah. No, I concur. All right. Next up, NBC is developing a family dramedy called For Better and Worse from creators Ian Dietschman, or probably Diekman in that case. Deichman? I suppose. And Kristen Robinson. I almost saw something and said something like just on autopilot because I saw the word Kaplan and I thought, Ari Kaplan's Kaplan Entertainment. No, apparently Rachel Kaplan's company, Absicon Entertainment, is what's
it's just not as catchy, is it?
No. So yes, written by the pair that I mentioned anyway. For Better and Worse will follow the evolution of one couple intercutting between 3 different stages of their marriage: when they're just starting out to date, when they have young kids, and when they're empty nesters.
Didn't we talk about something pretty similar to this not that long ago?
Yeah, but I think that one had them like after like they got divorced was one of the stages. This is
You might be right, yeah.
so this one's similar concept, but maybe not as sad an ending.
Yeah, maybe. Until one of them dies.
Oh, possibly, yes. So there you go. Next up, NBC is given a script commitment with penalty to a sci-fi medical drama. Interesting combination of words there.
So it's just a doctor on a spaceship, right?
So this is untitled right now, but it's coming from Joshua Troke, who worked on Good Sam, and Extant in Riviere creator. Oh, Extant. I only watched the first episode, but that was terrible. So, but that's Mickey Fisher who did that. So, written and executive produced by Troke, the untitled Joshua Troke project. Catchy title.
Yeah.
Follows the hard-working team of doctors caring for the pioneering residents and thrill-seeking visitors on the United States' first lunar colony.
Oh, it's so different to any other medical drama in history.
It just happens to be on the moon. Yeah. That's it. That's it. It's just a medical drama. Happens to be on the moon.
It's this is like it's a buddy cop, but one of them's a thing. It's a medical drama, but it's on the moon.
I'd say like this is just adding like cost to it, but then I'm thinking, nah, I mean they have to build sets anyway. Like it's really they get a couple of CG like establishing shots and they can just reuse them. So I don't know if actually
if anything, it's just a good excuse to never have exterior stuff.
That's true.
Everything's an interior set.
You never have to like have a scene in the street, all right? So you can just yeah, that's good. That's a good point.
Yeah, maybe once or twice a season you have to do a moonwalk and do a little outdoor thing of whatever. But I imagine most of it you can just do as indoor, like even more than I would expect from most medical dramas. You can just do as indoor sets.
Yeah, that makes some sense. All right, still NBC. They're developing The Chase, a crime drama from Supergirl alumna Azy Tesfaye Azy Tesfaye. She played Jimmy's sister.
I vaguely remember that being a thing.
Yeah. Yes, and she's actually writing and producing this, so she's sort of maybe she'll act in it as well, but she's doing the creative side here. In The Chase, when undercover CIA agent Robert Falls, just Robert. I thought his name was Robert Falls because I was expecting also, a full name. Wouldn't
be an unusual name for a character of this type.
Yeah, it's not though. It's just CIA agent Robert. Just Robert.
Agent Robert.
Is it just weird? Is that weird? Is that weird to just give the first name? I don't know.
It is very weird.
Or even
if it's his surname.
Maybe it's his surname, but even still, I feel like. I guess it wouldn't bother me if it was obviously a surname, if it was like Agent Roberts.
I was just going to say, if it was Roberts, then you'd be like, yeah, okay.
But because it's Robert, it just sounds... Anyway, when undercover CIA agent Robert falls for his target, Catherine, everything changes. Their Bonnie and Clyde escape goes sideways when they're captured by the American government and forced to use their opposing assets and skills to find some of the most wanted criminals in the world, all while learning... the other isn't who they thought. So this is buddy cop solving crimes, but they're both like one was a criminal and the other one was not a criminal, but is kind of a criminal now because he tried to run away with her.
Yeah. Oh, also I'm pretty sure that was personal professional.
Kinda. Yeah, learn each other isn't they thought. That's personal, yeah. It was professional.
Learn each other and solve the crimes, right?
Yeah. So
assuming the crimes are still a professional capacity and not just a little hobby on the side they've got.
I doubt it. I'm sure they've been forced to do it. Next up, we're over at ABC, and they've got a medical show.
Who doesn't?
So yes, they've ordered a pilot for medical drama, The Hurt Unit. Comes from Promised Land creator Matt Lopez and former SEAL Team showrunner John Glenn. Not the astronaut, I assume.
You never know.
The Hurt Unit follows a highly skilled team of trauma surgeons and nurses who race into the field to treat their patients who won't make it to the hospital in time. When the sick and the injured can't get to the ER, the hurt brings the ER to them.
The hurt's coming for you. That's not what you want to hear as an emergency patient, is it? Don't worry, the hurt's on the way.
Oh dear. Oh god. How many generic medical shows? I mean, I guess the gimmick here is that they're going out to location, which is slightly different, I guess, but not that much. You know?
Yeah.
If anything, it's more like a fireman show, like a firefighter show, where they're waiting for their call and then they go out.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Yeah.
It's basically just that, but with medical stuff rather than the fires and whatever else firefighters do. Oh, all right. Well, let's go to some CBS. CBS has ordered its first series for the 2023 to 2024 season, so this is a little bit early. They're doing this. It's called The Never Game. It's a new drama series that is going to start and be executive produced by Justin Hartley, who's a hot topic on the TV landscape after This Is Us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because ABC ordered something with Milo Ventimiglia, so all the stars of that show are getting things.
It's not surprising, is it? It's easy marketing for them. Be like,
so,
hey, look, we got one of them.
Based on the best-selling novel by Jeffrey Deaver, The Never Game features Hartley as a lone wolf survivalist, Coulter Shaw, who roams the country as a reward seeker, using his expert tracking skills to help private citizens and law enforcement solve all manner of mysteries whilst contending with his own fractured family.
Okay. I will drink for that in just a second. When they say reward seeker, I'm pretty sure they mean bounty hunter.
It's in quotations, so yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure just bounty hunter is what they're looking for there.
That's not politically correct to say anymore, though.
It's not politically correct to call someone a bounty hunter when that's their job.
Well, it's not bounties anymore, is it? We've been beyond bounties. It's
Milky Ways.
It's open contracts. It's like... Do you know what's so funny is that I don't think bounties are a thing in the US.
I don't think they are.
So no one got that joke but me.
No.
So congratulations.
Hey, all three of our UK listeners got that. I really hope so, because if not, where have you been living in the UK?
Oh dear.
Also, everyone should move on from bounties. They're all...
No, I think bounties and Milky Ways, and this is a UK Milky Way, because a US Milky Way is a very different thing. A UK Milky Way and a bounty, I like about the same. I think they're both nice alternatives to the typical chocolate bar, which is usually a combination of the same things.
You're insane.
Eh.
One, clearly the superior answer is Snickers. That's the only chocolate bar that matters. Two, bounties are objectively just terrible. No one likes them. That's why they got rid of them out of everything.
Tons of people like bounties. Just because
they literally sell versions of the chocolate boxes at Christmas without bounties, because that many people despise bounties.
Look, you just don't like coconut. That's the problem here. It's not the bounty is the problem. You don't like coconut. That's the issue.
That may be true. I don't like coconut, but I am not alone in not liking the bounty. You get a box of Celebrations. No one's going, oh, I don't want the Maltesers one. No, they're not making versions of the Celebrations box without Maltesers. They're making versions without the bounties because no one wants the goddamn bounties.
No, Joe, they should make a version without. They should get rid of the Twix. The Twix is shit. Twix is boring.
Whoa.
Bounty's way better than the Twix, right?
Boring, I will accept, but shit, I will not. The Twix is a staple. That's a standard. The biscuit, the caramel, the chocolate. Yeah, no.
Piss off with your Twix, or if you're in Germany in the 80s, the Raid bar.
Yes.
Thank you for that bit of trivia, Dark. Or Raider. I think it was a Raider, actually, now I'm thinking about it. But anyway, this is besides the point. We're going off track here, right? Just,
we would never go off track.
I just, like, of course, the Malteser's the best one. That's no one's disputing that. But like Bounty and the Milky Way are probably like 2 and 3. Like that's
insane.
That's where I feel.
Milky Way's up there. I'll give you that. I think the Milky Way's underrated, but Bounty, no, kick it out.
I'll say it right now. I think a Mars bar is overrated.
Do you know what? Again, all this is in the context that I haven't been able to have chocolate in like 4 years. When I could have chocolate, even a normal sized Mars bar, every so often I get a craving for a Mars. I'm like, ooh, go on, I love a Mars.
It's too sickening.
And I get about 3/4 of the way through. I'm like, I'm sick of this now. Every time. But the little bite-sized ones that you get in celebrations, I see.
Oh, I can eat them. Look, they're not unpleasant. It's chocolate, caramel, and whatever the Mars part is. But
nugget.
Well, it's nugget, but it's not like Milky Way is also nugget, but it's a different type of nugget.
Yeah, Milky Way's like soft nugget.
Aye.
But this is why the Snickers is better. You take the Mars and you add in nuts.
I mean, nuts are a good addition to most chocolate bars. I don't dispute this.
No.
Aye. Anyway.
I hate that I really want one now and I can't.
You still need to drink for this show, though. I do.
Honestly, I completely forgot you. Thank you.
You've dodged. You've tried to dodge that.
Do you know what?
I love how the phrase.
This is about the cheapest stuff I've got. I'm really enjoying this tonight.
I love how the phrase bounty hunter led to a 5-minute debate on chocolate.
It was important.
Well, I'm on it. Galaxy's better than dairy milk, right? End of discussion.
100%. Again, I have the same problem where too much of it and it's a bit rich for me.
Sure,
but like in small doses, 100% better.
Yes. And I like a Ferrero Rocher, but if I want a posh treat, the Lindor chocolates with the soft chocolate on the inside.
I think I prefer the Ferrero Rochers out of the two.
I like both. Both are good, but
I tell you what, the king of the underrated chocolate, Kinder Buenos.
Oh yeah, no, they're really good. But that's the creamy hazelnut. Well, of course. That's good.
But it's the best.
It's wonderful. It's beautiful.
I miss it.
Oh, and let's not forget the Terry's chocolate orange, also a good contender.
A Christmas staple.
Anyway, we got more CBS to talk about. CBS is developing Citizen Jane, a drama from Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol co-creator. Wait, how is he the creator if it's Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol?
I don't understand what's happening. And I assume it's. I heard the name. I'm like, okay, so this is some sort of play on Citizen Kane. Right. And then you started telling me it's Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol. So
Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol. I assume there was an adaptation created by Jay Beatty, because that's what they're saying here. But it doesn't sound right when you're saying Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol co-creator. I mean, I guess he maybe co-created with Dan Brown, but if so, why is his name not in the title as well?
Dan Brown. I think he ghostwrites a lot, or has ghostwriters for a lot of stuff.
This is a bit Bill Finger here getting shoved out for the Batman credit, which is on my mind because I watched a documentary recently. It was very good. But anyway. In Citizen Jane, written by Beatty, haunted by her sister's unsolved murder, a law school dropout turned citizen sleuth partners with a jaded homicide detective seeking redemption to solve cold cases and deliver justice across the country.
I was all professional.
Aye. Didn't we change it at some point so that buddy cop but one's a thing also was a role?
Do you want me to die? Don't answer that.
Buddy cop but one's a law school dropout. That's very specific. But
it's very specific.
Alright, CBS, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, next up. Final story, but there's 2 shows in it, so...
God, are they both CBS as well?
They're both CBS.
Okay.
So, Donnie Wahlberg, everyone's... Lisa Wahlberg, he set up 2 cop dramas at CBS through CBS Studios.
For like cop dramas? Yeah, of course we'll take them.
They're developing Samaritan and Harbor Blue are the 2 shows.
Mm-hmm. Go on, tell me about how different they are.
Samaritan is, after discovering a glitch in an app that notifies her of crimes and emergencies before they happen, a young hustler teams with a grizzled detective to prevent the tragedies from occurring. How many shows where it's a cop and someone else than a buddy cop?
But this time it's a young hustler.
It's a young, well, not only that, it's a young hustler who apparently has got some sort of
magic app.
Yeah, it's like sci-fi app, or maybe it's like a supernatural app or something, but it's predicting things.
It's like it's a little bit Minority Report, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, with the predicting, oh, hey, what can they do when they haven't committed the crimes yet? We go off box and we get them anyway.
I can't believe just how similar some of that wording was to the last story. That's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's Samaritan. And then the other one, Harbor Blue. In it, a team of adrenaline junkies from the NYPD Harbor Unit tasked with securing and policing the 576 miles of treacherous waterfront surrounding all 5 boroughs of New York, delivering justice to criminals on and off the water.
Okay, so the water cops. So
The
no
water
one
cops,
cares.
yes.
They're not real cops, then, are they?
I just love that on and off the water is like, instead of professional and personal life, they put on and off the water.
Yeah.
They should have said on and under the water. That'd have sounded cooler, but whatever.
Yeah, well. I hate all of them. Every single one of those sounded terrible. And the same.
They should just combine them all into one show. So you've got a law school dropout, a young hustler with a supernatural app, and they're all solving crimes underwater together. That's your whole show.
And you just have a Busted song as your theme.
Whatever reference you're making here, I'm not getting.
Year 3000, because they live underwater.
I still don't get the reference. Is that a song that they've got?
Yeah, Busted. It's like that one song that everyone knows, Year 3000.
I don't know what.
Not much has changed, but they live underwater. That's the lyric. How do you don't know it? It's like you're making me feel like I'm the one who should be stupid here, but this is one of the most well-known song lyrics.
Look, I was just a little bit old for Busted when
no
Busted.
One's too old for Busted.
Okay. I was too busy enjoying. I don't know.
Limp Bizkit.
What year was this?
I don't know. Early 2000s. New metal.
System of a Down. Yes, I was listening to new metal at the time. I wasn't paying attention to Busted.
You could do both.
I was a cat.
Yeah.
That's a claiming.
It's a really good job that's an old chair because it has been ripped to shreds.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me, I know my chair's been ripped to shreds. The cats just jump up and cause chaos. But there you go. That is the last TV news. The last almost cancelled of 2022. Which
made it a good one.
Yeah, I think because we brought this back in like April or something like that, and I think we've done like 20. This is like episode 27 of the year or something like that. So not too bad going. All things considered, but obviously we'll be going through the whole year next year, so we'll have even more, and you can support the show by going to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and supporting us that way, or like, subscribe, ding the bell, let us know in the comments what you thought of any of the stories. What was the best chocolate bar, especially if you're in the UK and it's relevant. That said, though, if I'm bringing in American chocolate, like a Butterfinger is really nice. Like I have to admit, like and Reese's peanut butter cups are also fantastic.
Again, they're all right, yeah, but I'd still take a Snickers over anything. A UK Snickers. I think American Snickers are a bit different.
I don't think Snickers are that. I mean, they may taste slightly different just because of different recipes. Because
like I've heard that they're different.
Having recently been in the US and noticing that all drinks taste different. Like Coke tastes different, Monster tastes different. They all taste different.
Like I'm saying, like a UK Snickers is the superior choice.
But you've never had
unless you have a nut allergy.
You never had an American Snickers though, so you don't know that.
No, but every American chocolate I've had has underwhelmed me in comparison.
The chocolate,
just on the raw chocolate.
Oh yeah, the raw chocolate is. But there's nothing in the UK that like is equivalent to a Butterfinger. A Butterfinger is this unique thing.
I agree, which is why I'm saying Snickers to Snickers. I'm willing to put money on the UK one being better. And
I'll give them points for the variety of Pop-Tarts. Like the UK has like 2 flavors of Pop-Tart. It's depressing.
I don't care for Pop-Tarts. I don't see the appeal.
If anyone needed evidence of why Connor is worthless, doesn't like bounties, doesn't like Pop-Tarts.
I'm not an 8-year-old who needs a sugary breakfast.
I don't have them for breakfast. Do you know what I have for breakfast?
You don't, but
I have bran flakes and oat milk. I have like the most boring yet healthy breakfast. that one could probably have.
Oh, that's even more boring than mine. If I have breakfast, it's crunchy nut cornflakes.
They're nice, but they're sugary. They're quite sugary.
They are, but they got nuts in, so they're better.
Wait, what are you having with your cereal? You can't drink milk.
Oat milk.
Oat milk's good for you. That is good for your blood pressure.
Yeah, but it's boring, isn't it? It's not the same. It's really annoying with coffees because it doesn't steam as well, so you have to pay extra for the barista versions. And it's just
oh, someone, get the violin out. There's a lactose ginger on the podcast and he's miserable.
I'm always miserable. That's fine. I'm used to it.
I should really say lactose intolerant. It sounds a bit weird for to see your lactose. It sounds
I'm a lactose ginger.
You can milk him.
Wouldn't recommend you try though.
All right, that's the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Have a nice holiday season, everyone. Obviously, there's still going to be content get up on the channels. There'll be various TV reviews sprinkled throughout, and obviously over Male Fuzz Movies there'll be episodes of Ace, Screams, and Collector's Cut. So go and have a look at all those and stuff. The Avatar 2 review, for example, will be out early next week. So go and go check it out. But that is us. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?